May I have a roll call? First, welcome to the November 4th meeting of the Rules Committee. May I have a roll call?
Let's turn that on. Councilmember Kelly.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Present.
Councilmember Wynn. Here. Councilmember Nusma.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Councilmember Burns.
Here.
Councilmember Councilmember Suffredin. Here. Councilmember Ravel.
Here.
Mayor Biss.
Here.
Councilmember Harris.
Here. All right. That brings us to public comment. I'm sorry that.
I don't have it on the agenda, but can you vote for remote participation?
Oh, yes. We do have one member who is remote, who has stated their reason for being remote. Mayor Biss.
I move that we allow Councilmember Ravel to participate remotely due to illness.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any abstentions? Any noes? The ayes have it. Councilmember Ravel is participating remotely. Now that brings us to public comment. We have one person signed up in person for public comment, and that is Mary Rosinski. Or online.
Thank you so much. It was really challenging to sign up today because it was asking for access to my Google account and then it wouldn't sign to anything. It is usually just that form. So you guys might want to look into that, or maybe I'm the only one who had problems with it. But I did want to say I am opposed to the mandatory ordinance of 15 minutes ahead of time. At many of the surrounding cities, Wilmette, Skokie, Northbrook, you can just walk in and they'll ask, does anyone have public comment? And so I don't think we should be limiting, especially at this time when there's been so many special orders of business in the last 3-4 years, and the public is getting things and information thrown at them so quickly. And then you have early meetings and people are just coming home from work. A lot of us are working full time. So I just would like you to take that into consideration. I know it's hard, Stephanie, I appreciate it, and just the best we can do. But I would not make that an ordinance. Please don't restrict our public time more. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Rosinski. Is there anyone else who would like to provide public comment? If not, that brings us to our first order of business. May I have a motion for the minutes?
So moved.
The minutes of
I'll second.
the minutes of February 5th, 2024, or 2024 have been moved by Councilmember Nguyen, seconded by Councilmember Nusma. May I have a roll call?
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Wynn.
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Suffredin. Councilmember Ravel.
Aye.
Mayor Biss.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye. Thank you. The ayes have it. It is approved unanimously, and the minutes are adopted. That brings us to items for consideration. The first is item R1, appointment of a council member to the Equity and Empowerment Commission. I'll just set this up very quickly. I was the council member who served on the Equity Empowerment Commission for roughly 3 years of the term. I stepped down a few months ago, and they have not had a council member representative. So I encourage someone to take up that spot and have fun.
Mr. Chair, with thanks to you for your service on the committee, I will nominate Councilmember Chrissy Harris from the Second Ward for this position.
Second.
All right. Councilmember Harris has been nominated. All those, or any discussion on that? Any further? No? Congratulations. All those in favor, or I'm sorry, may I have a roll call?
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
I'll abstain.
Councilmember Wynn. Councilmember Nusma.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Suffredin. Councilmember Ravel.
Aye.
Mayor Biss.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye. All right. That brings us to item R2, Resolution 80, R24, amending City Council Rule 6, citizen comment. May I have a motion? Seeing no,
I move approval of Resolution 80-R-24.
moved by Mayor Biss, seconded by,
I'll second for the purposes of having a discussion.
all right. It's been properly moved and seconded by Mayor Biss and Councilmember Nusma. Any discussion? Councilmember Kelly.
I think we really need to be looking for ways to increase public participation, not further restricting it. I even question whether or not this could be considered a violation in some courts of OMA. I imagine residents getting here at 5 minutes before the meeting's about to start, rushing after work and being told, yeah, you had to be here 15 minutes in advance, tough luck. I don't think this is the direction we should be moving in. I don't think it's a good look. I think it's, I think we have to figure out how we can handle if we're having issues with organization, getting it together. We should be addressing that, not further restricting comment. I know, the restrictions are supposed to be reasonable. I understand that it's up to the governing body what the rules are, but this seems to be unreasonable in my opinion, and I do think it could get challenged. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Nusma.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm also very reluctant to make any changes to our policies or procedures that would even have the appearance or be perceived as limiting public engagement. So I am wondering, and I guess this is a question for Clerk Mendoza, who I see walking in. Is the proposal in front of us really kind of codifying standard practice that's already essentially happening, or is this a new requirement? And what's kind of driving this
We've always
proposal?
enforced the 15-minute rule. It's been a standard practice since, I think, before Councilmember Reed was clerk. This is just putting it into the rules so everyone understands what the rules are, and so that it's clear in our code. Currently, it's on our website as a rule already. So if you go on the website, it's there.
If I can,
Can you speak to the potential implications of OMA compliance or non-compliance?
Yeah, so like the reality is like if I don't have enough time to send someone from the transition, just even from the Aldermanic Library up to the dais to send them the link, then it is a potential like OMA violation. So I'm just asking for like a little bit of grace. I think I do my best to send everybody the link. It's just that currently there's no buffer zone from the time I even have to travel from my office up to here, from the council member, the Aldermanic Library up to the dais. And then in that time span, I'm also like troubleshooting, like trying to help people log on. Like it's someone like maybe didn't copy and paste the link correctly to their browser, sending them a link, trying to figure out like who's doing public comment that day, like who signed up in person. So it's just a lot. Like I know it just seems like we're all sitting up here on the dais sometimes, but there's a lot of things going on. There's like, is a Zoom link working correctly for people? Did people sign on? Are they having issues? Do they need to call instead? So it's like one or the other. Either I'm like focused on getting people like technical assistance, or I'm focused on sending people a link that's already available on the agenda.
So is it important for us to have some kind of a rule so that it gives you the discretion to enforce something and have it not be arbitrary?
Well, yeah, otherwise like we're committing an OMA violation, right? Like I'm not sending someone a link. I'm not giving them the access that they need. So we give people plenty of time to sign up. There's a sheet outside. So I don't even collect the sheet until I come up to the dais. So like realistically speaking, if you're in the council chambers a minute before the meeting starts, you're always going to have time to sign up in person. So, but if you get here after council and I'm up here on the dais already, then there's nothing that prevents, like I still have to bring technically like the way things are without a rule in place, like I have to bring the sheet up for someone to sign up. So, but again, it's like your discretion. It's just, I'm just asking for a little bit of time and grace. Like I can do a lot. I'm just not like superwoman. I can't do that all the time, right? Like, it's impossible.
And it seems like the challenge is really driven by the online public commenters more so than the in-person.
Yeah, it's more online. It's that like buffer zone for the online, because I'm either providing technical assistance.
And you're sending the link and
I'm sending the
providing
link as
technical
well.
assistance, which
Yes.
isn't enumerated under the clerk's scope of
Responsibilities.
responsibilities. I wonder if there's a way we could make the link more readily available to take you kind of out of the.
Yeah, it is available on the agenda, but people still need, right? Again, like people still need that extra technical assistance. So like I understand like it's all of that, it's available, public sign up is available, everything is available 24/7. Like the agenda will usually be posted way more than 48 hours in advance. It's all available. It's just people need that support. And that's what I'm saying. Like either I'm using my time to support people who have signed up, who have been waiting to do public comment, or I'm spending it sending a link to someone that signed up 5 seconds before the meeting. Not to say that I don't do that already, but I do that all the time. I just need, like, if I'm having someone file an OMA complaint because I didn't send them the link 5 seconds before the meeting, that's also like a very hard position to put me in when I'm trying to help the people that signed up last Friday to do public comment.
Well, in the way the proposed rule is drafted, it says 15 minutes prior to the posted start time of the meeting.
Yeah.
We frequently start well after the posted start time. And so if the posted start time is 6 o'clock, I'd like people to be able to keep signing up if the council meeting doesn't start until 6:37. I don't want to have them, cut off by 5:45.
I understand. I'm not going to wake up next Monday and like stop the practice that I've been doing, which is sending the people the link that I've been sending them for the past few years. It's just if someone signs up right after the 15 minutes, posted 15 minutes time, and for whatever reason, my computer's not getting internet, which happens often in this building, I'm distracted talking to a resident that needs assistance in person, whatever it is, then that like I'm potentially committing an OMA violation because I'm not able to get them the information that they need if they signed up a second before the meeting. Like I'm going to continue to do the practices that I've been doing. I'm not like rescinding my commitment to the public. I'm just saying like life happens and we need that buffer zone in order for us to not be committing OMA violations. So again, it's the discretion of the council, but I can't guarantee you that life isn't going to happen if you don't allow for that 15-minute buffer zone.
Right. Thanks. That's all I have.
Thank you. I just want to clarify two things. That the 15-minute window practice was not a practice prior to this administration. It was not something that the clerk's office, when I was at the helm, did. And I just also want to be clear that not sending a publicly available link to someone who's asking for troubleshooting help would certainly not be a violation of the Open Meetings Act.
But if they're not, again, just to reply, if they're for some reason not able to sign up and I'm not able to give them that technical assistance, then we potentially are. So if they're not able to sign up.
Councilmember Suffredin.
Yeah, so I appreciate the situation that you find yourself in, and I don't want us to end up with unintentional Open Meetings Act violations. The overarching concern is that our meetings don't start at a defined time. So I'd like us to work on that, but that's not what's before us now. You think this is a solution for the problems that you've described for you? And I don't mean that like selfishly, like for Stephanie, for your office in your official capacity.
Yeah, and keep in mind, like my office closes at 4 and meetings usually don't start until an hour, 2 hours before city council. So I'm in the building, I'm here providing that service. I usually don't go home, I stay here. And I'll continue to do that. But yes, it's a solution for potential OMA violations. Not to say I'm not, you guys could change the language if you need to. I'm going to continue to provide the same service that I've been providing. This is more of a solution to ensure that we're not committing OMA violations, and also like for the public to understand the rules, because right now the public doesn't understand the rules.
Yeah. And I presume a potential solution in the future would be to have a different sign-up method than a clipboard with a piece of paper and a separate online way to do it. And have we looked at all at how to do that?
Yeah, I mean, right now I know we're doing a lot of revamping with our website, so I am part of that. I will be part of that committee to think about how to provide better technical solutions. So while we find a better technical solution, that's what we have now available to us. The form for sign up is used by many people, like many staff. So we do need to think about like a solution that works for everyone. So we have P&D before City Council. It's the same link people used to sign up, APW, and we use that same link for many other meetings, not just City Council.
Okay. And this might not be a fair question, but you do the minutes, so you might know this. How many of our council meetings start within 15 minutes of the posted start time anyway? I mean, if we were to just say, take at least 15 minutes prior to the posted start time of the meeting and just say the posted start time of the meeting, from a practical standpoint, how many times would that leave more than 15 minutes before the actual start of the meeting?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I mean, probably if I look back at the last year, none of them. But I've always, since the time I've been clerk, I've always sent the link, even while I'm up here. If I think someone is having technical issues, I've even texted people when they're not responding on Zoom. Hey, do you need help, or can you sign on? I think all of us, we really try to provide the best assistance, but unfortunately, that doesn't preclude anyone, right, from filing an OMA violation if they feel that they didn't get the best assistance, even if all that information was available to them.
I'm just trying to think how, again, we want to avoid unintentional Open Meetings Act violations. We want people to sign up, and from a meeting efficiency standpoint, we want to avoid the hey, wait, I signed up. I thought I signed up. Did you sign up on the yellow sheet? So in your opinion, this solves the problem the best way that we can think of?
Yeah, for now it does.
Okay. And you're open to figuring something more permanent?
I'm open to figuring anything out this council wants to figure out. What I want to do is be able to do my job without violating the Open Meetings Act, and I will continue to do my job. But even with me trying to provide as much assistance as possible, it really won't ever be enough, right?
Okay. And maybe that's the question. Does it need to be you doing the tech support? I mean, it falls to you right now.
I mean, then who else?
I don't know. That's a question, I guess, for the city manager. Is there another staff person who could be there with some sort of vest on, says help, I'm here to help, or something? I mean, I don't think we're talking about a large number of people that this would affect, but the problem is if it's an Open Meetings Act violation, it becomes a big problem that was a pretty benign circumstance that led to it. And I think that's what we want to avoid.
Yeah. And I can always have my staff work longer hours, but that, again, that's a cost to the municipality as well. So, I mean, if that's what the council wants, that's what we'll do. And every other Monday or every time we have city council and APW or P&D, I can have someone from my staff work overtime. But that's the other solution.
Yeah, I'm not looking for a $40,000 solution to this problem. I'm just trying to figure out how to solve the problem. You've made a proposal that you believe solves it, and I'm just asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Best.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'm very much loath to belabor this discussion, but I just wanted to share sort of my understanding of what brought us here. And if the clerk or the law department want to correct me, that's great. But as I understand it, part of what brought us here was a comprehensive review of our public comment rules that followed some extremely ugly incidents that occurred about a year ago, one of the things that I kind of put on myself at that time was like, hey, I've been a little too loose in enforcing the public comment rules. And so that leads to making choices about for whom they get fully enforced, which is a terrible way to do things. And so we thought it's time to bring things more into rigid compliance and full enforcement. And this 15-minute rule was already either on the website or maybe on the agenda or both. And in consultation of some form or another with the public access counselor, we were given guidance that you can't have a rule that's just sort of on the web somewhere. If you're going to, it's within our rights to make and enforce such a rule, but then it's got to be codified. So my understanding of what this was not an effort to change any rule at all, but an effort to codify the existing rule that was already written, but not written in the right place to be OMA compliant. That doesn't mean it's a good rule. It doesn't mean we shouldn't change it. But my understanding is we were just already doing this, but it wasn't written down in our rules and therefore was not necessarily OMA compliant. And we were dotting all the I's and crossing the T's to bring us into compliance. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's correct.
Thank you. Councilmember Hadakatis.
Question for Clerk Mendoza. Do you think it would be, we'd still be solving the problem if we change the language a little bit to say to be addressed on the designated resident participation sheet in person up until the start of the meeting or online form and make a distinction between the two? I do feel like 15 minutes prior to the meeting for people who are not in the building, we're not really limiting anything at that point. I do like the fact that, anyone can come right up to the start of the meeting to get your name on the public comment. Do you think that would still solve the problem we're trying to fix?
Yeah, I think it's more the online, the technical part that is difficult. Then that means you guys have to wait for me to get on the dais. If it's going to be right before the meeting, then it's right before the meeting, and you just wait for me. And I don't mind. And the online in-person public comment sign up it's smoother, right? Than, minus bad handwriting, but it's smoother than and bad hand reading, than online.
Okay.
The only thing is, I don't know if that would be potentially confusing, but if you guys can come up with good language, I would prefer that you come up with the language rather than putting that on me to come up with the language.
I don't know. I guess I personally think that'd be a way to kind of keep it as open as possible and still solve this issue. So I don't know if other people have similar thoughts, but I'd be open to make an amendment if other people think that's the right way to do it.
Thank you, Councilmember Hadakatis. Councilmember Harris.
Thank you so much. So some of my questions were already asked, and I think, has it been tradition that your office or your position dealt with the technical difficulties? Is that somewhere that should be on your area?
It's always been since I've been clerk. Prior to me being clerk, I don't know. Okay. We already have, Luke is already troubleshooting Zoom while he's up there, and then I'm trying to make sure people can log on. And then it's just, I think it works well the way we have it working now, because we're all kind of the mayor's next to me, Luke is next to the mayor. We can kind of communicate with each other if anyone's having issues.
Okay. I was just wondering because I know I see City Manager Stowe and Allison, they're always trying to figure it out. I didn't know you were part of that mix. The concern I have is the minute, if we say 15 minutes, but we know we start late, or when you get the sheet, the minute we do it the right time and somebody is 14 minutes and we mess up, that's when we violated the policy because we've created a policy. So that's just my concern, that the minute we follow this, everybody's going to say, but yesterday you didn't, last week you didn't. And it just creates that.
That's how we got here. Yeah,
right.
That's exactly how we got here. So if it wouldn't have been an issue. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right. Yeah. So I'm hesitant because I don't know that it's our job to troubleshoot, but it's our job to set parameters around what we do. So that's where I'm in a quandary. But thank you for bringing this to us.
Thank you. We have one member who wants to speak for a second time. I just want to jump in again. This is, for me, a true active restraint. So, Councilmember Kelly, if I can go first. Yeah, okay. So, have there been any complaints filed about an OMA violation related to this?
Yeah, so this exactly is why.
But it was about enforcing the rule that was not a rule, not that someone couldn't speak it.
You say the rule wasn't there since before you were clerk, but I actually haven't changed the website since I started, so the rule's always been there.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
it wasn't adopted by council. But to be clear, the only OMA violation that is, or complaint, I should say, that has been filed is about this rule being enforced when it wasn't an enforceable rule. Is that correct?
Well, it's always been on the website that you have to sign up 15 minutes before the meeting. So I don't know if it's probably not a rule, but it may be a norm or tradition, which councils do have.
Maybe if I can direct to Corporation Counsel, do you know of an OMA violation being filed regarding this matter?
I'm not aware of one being filed regarding this.
Okay. That's helpful. And is that your understanding that there was not?
So there was guidance by the Attorney General's office like that.
Right. But the guidance wasn't about, hey, you need a 15-minute window. It was, hey, you have this rule on the website that is not an official rule because it hasn't been adopted by council.
Yeah.
Correct.
And if it has,
So that is the only OMA complaint that has been filed to date. And, I know from my time in the clerk's office, we never enforced a 15-minute window. In fact, we'd grab the clipboard in fact, sometimes after the meeting started, we'd grab the clipboard and bring it up for the then mayor. What is the potential OMA violation that we're worried about? So what in the law specifically, what set of words in the law are we worried about violating if we don't amend this rule?
You mean what provision of the Open Meetings
Correct.
Act are we worried about violating?
If we were to not adopt a 15-minute window, what provision are we worried about violating?
We're worried about the provision of the Open Meetings Act that deals with public comment and that you have to allow public comment, of course, but you are allowed to have reasonable restrictions, but the reasonable restriction has to be clear so that everybody knows it.
But
Yes, and just to be clear too, previously, there was a complaint filed about this not being formally adopted.
Correct.
And the guidance we got from the PAC was to formally adopt it if we're going to enforce it. I just wanted to make that clear. So
thank you for that. But again, if we were, the rule that you cited there was that we're concerned about not following the reasonable restriction provision in the Open Meetings Act. But if we didn't have this restriction, this 15-minute restriction, what is the concern? What is the concern about violating the Open Meetings Act?
well, the concern then is if you don't have this reasonable restriction and you do have someone that tries to sign up for an online comment, or after the clerk is on the dais that for whatever reason gets missed with respect to public comment, then you may have denied them their public comment without a reasonable restriction in place.
Sure. Okay.
So it actually helps you, I
Sure.
think.
Thank you for that. And then also I'll note that, so that is helpful. I do think that some kind of cutoff, and I think it should be when the meeting starts personally, but, and if that's not already in our rules or assumed, I'll double check that. But, I just also want to note that public comment isn't the first thing that we do. We don't gavel in and immediately start public comment. There's the mayor's announcements, there's city manager announcements, there's clerk announcements. So there is a bit of a buffer window between when, for example, the example you gave was grabbing the sign-in sheet. It could sit there for a few minutes and you could come up to the dais and then walk out there and grab it. So it's not the first thing that we do. So I think there's a bit of time. I will note to Councilmember Harris's questions, Clerk Mendoza is under, we didn't have virtual public comment very much before this term. I mean, it slightly began during the COVID pandemic in, obviously 2020, 2021. But prior to that, there was I tried to push for it, but there was very limited virtual participation prior to that from public comment. So the only thing that had started before Clerk Mendoza's time was just that folks could sign up online rather than only in person. And then for that, I'll end for now. And Councilmember Kelly, followed by Councilmember Nusma for a second crack.
Thank you. So I would concur with Councilmember Hedakaris that I think that the in-person public comment should definitely be omitted. Doesn't take any great scrambler feat to go and grab the sheet when our council meeting begins. We could even establish it by roll call. Whoever has a roll call, you pick up the sheet. There's a lot of ways to do that. I think that we would risk a potential violation of OMA. Not this particular term city council, but in the past, the Evanston City Council has been found in violation of OMA for imposing unreasonable restrictions on public comment. So that has happened in the past. And I would hate to see us dragged into that just because we thought we couldn't pick up the sign-up sheet when our meeting was beginning. So I would second a motion by Councilmember Hedakaris, if he'd like to make it. I understand also Mayor Biss's concern for decorum and order in light of what's happened in the past with regard to the online. I'm not quite sure how you do that, but I'm going to trust that you have a way that you're able to vet or do something to prevent it with those 15 minutes. But so I would, again, I would agree with Councilmember Hedakaris to move this forward, not including the in-person public comment, that can be made up until the moment that council, that you can sign up until the moment that the meeting begins. Thank you. And I just want to mention one thing, sorry. just so that we have a little reality check. In Skokie, for example, you don't even have to sign up. They just say, okay, public comment, line up, anybody who wants to speak. I think Wilmette's the same. So we have sign up. We already, we control a little tight. We already are tighter in how we control, more restrictive in how we control public comment. So I certainly don't think at this point we should be moving to make it even worse for people who come here to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Newsom is next, but he has a motion that he's emailed to all of us. I suppose he's planning on making that motion. Councilmember Suffredin, have you?
I'm just excited to hear this potential motion.
Okay. Well, then I'll just go straight to Councilmember Newsom.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think it makes sense to have a rule so that we're not blindly enforcing, some kind of informal understanding, in order to ensure, members of the public have every opportunity to address the city council. I would propose striking the 15-minute language and require them to sign up prior to the meeting being called to order. Which is the same as saying prior to the start of the meeting, but a little bit more formally stated. So I have emailed a motion. I'll make that motion to change the language to read yada yada on a designated resident participation sheet or online form prior to the meeting being called to order.
Second. So the motion is on the floor. Councilmember Suffredin, did you want to respond to that, or should I go to Councilmember Hedakaris?
This is like a defensive policy. We're trying to put ourselves in a position where we're not violating the Open Meetings Act. Obviously, the incident that Mayor Biss talked about, we were all here. It's clear that type of event can happen, and it's someone who's looking for a weakness in our policies. So what I was going to ask, and I don't know, Skokie and Wilmette are neighboring communities. I don't know if they're peer communities in the tradition of public comment. I would imagine in the world of public comment, there are other communities more similar to ours that have to follow the same Open Meeting Act requirements that may have a solution that can work. Sounds like part of the challenge is integrating the online signups with the in-person signups. I'm not a tech person, but we have tech people there may be a way using some sort of device to make those merge and make it clear that like the curtain comes down at a particular point. We can discuss when that point is, but our real job here is to make it so we don't have somebody who can put an Open Meetings Act violation on us because there's some sloppy loophole because the clipboard didn't get past the 35 feet it needed to go at the appointed time or whatever. So whatever we do, let's just make it super tight and super clear. That's all. And it sounds like the amendment that Councilmember Newsom has moves us in that direction. And but we're already 10 minutes past the time we're going to discuss the budget.
And then also, like, what is the time the meeting starts? Is it the moment that I call the roll and then I stand up and go get the sheet, or?
That's
This
why,
point, yeah.
that's why I very explicitly chose the words, the meeting being called to order, because that's something that happens formally at the beginning of a meeting.
So the mayor calls the meeting to order after I'm seated. So I'll just stand up and get the sheet afterwards then.
If I may, the time this will get tested will be a very crowded, intense meeting. It's not going to be a night like tonight.
Yeah.
So let's design this for a very crowded, intense issue meeting because that's the standard. It has to be a procedure that stands up to that test.
I would also suggest putting in the rules, like the link will be available, I don't know, like somewhere, or so people know exactly where to go find the link. And it's not on me to send the link.
Yeah. Okay. Councilmember Suffolk?
Yeah, I'm done.
Okay. Thank
Here-
you.
Need to be done.
May I be recognized?
Sorry, I didn't see the light.
Sorry. I just wanted to clarify that if you're going to specify different rules for the online versus the in-person thing, that is fine, but you should specify a reason as to why you're treating the online people differently, which I mean, it's obvious, but that needs to be specified if you're going to treat them
And
differently.
as the motion is written now, there is no, well, yeah, but the motion that's on the floor does not have a delineation between online or in person, which I think makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, Councilmember Burns.
I don't think this motion addresses the issue that Clerk Mendoza provided to us unless, as she just said, we send out, it's particularly online, we send out a link and that's it. It's like, it's up to you to find we're going to give you 3 different ways to access the link. It's on the agenda. It's in this email. It's somewhere else. And it's not on her on Clerk Mendoza to troubleshoot and to help people access the link. And if that's what we do, then I think we've solved the problem that Clerk Mendoza has wanted us to consider here. If not, then I think Councilmember Hedekadis, he provided an alternative motion in our email, and I think that properly addresses the issue, which is where I was at, which is, at least for online, we treat it a little different. We say 15 minutes either before the posted time or call to order, however we want to handle it. So I'm open to any version that helps to solve the problem. Yeah.
Thank you. If I can just point of information here on that. So what I heard, and just to close this out, hopefully on this and adopt a motion, what I heard Clerk Mendoza share as the main concern is that the clerk doesn't want to violate the Open Meetings Act. That is the concern. As our counsel pointed out, the only violation of the Open Meetings Act that was articulated is that if there is no rule, then essentially someone could come in at the end of the meeting and sign up for public comment, or at any point. Councilmember Newsom's motion clarifies that there is a definitive deadline to sign up for public comment, which creates a deadline, and so thereby eliminates the potential of a violation of the Open Meetings Act. So I think that solves the problem.
Yeah, I guess I heard more than that. So and I should have specified that I heard a few different problems. That's like the most important one, but I heard something else from your comments as well. If this solves both of those problems, and I'm fine supporting it, I just also heard that we have somebody that's trying to get links to people, helping people troubleshoot. And if we can take that off of our clerk's hands, I would also like to see that happen.
And yeah, thank you for that. I don't think there's any obligation in the Open Meetings Act for the clerk to do that. And then, as the clerk noted, the information is within the agenda. I also would note that with Google Forms or Google whatever we're using, that I think there can be a window after someone completes their sign up that would link them to potentially the clerk's office could just one time go in every meeting and link directly to the agenda or to whatever meeting link, and that would solve that issue. So it'd just be automatically providing the person with the necessary information.
Yeah, I think there's a way to do it. I wanted to call attention to that. So as long as we can make that happen, Manager Stowe with IT or whatever we need to do to make that happen,
So it's not necessarily like it's just providing clarity to the resident, right, in the ordinance. But if you don't want to provide that clarity, it's fine. Like the link is still there. It's always been there. It'll continue to be there. I'm just saying as a matter of clarity for the public, because you're creating a rule, might as well let them know in that rule where they can find things. But if not, it's okay.
Yeah, I think the clarity can be provided anywhere on the website. That's not a matter of OMA or even a matter of having to be in the council rules, because we may change where these links are. So I don't think that needs to be in the rules, but as long as the information gets to the resident, how they can virtually participate in the meeting, I think that's the important thing. So with that, there's a motion on the floor with Councilmember Newsom's motion. We'll do a roll call. The motion is, as Councilmember Newsom sent it to us, that that residents will have the ability to sign up for public comment at any point prior to the meeting being called to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Wynn. Aye. Councilmember Newsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Suffredin. Councilmember Ravel.
Aye.
Mayor Biss.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye. All right, and so that brings us to the underlying motion. May I have a roll call on that? That was the amendment, correct?
Councilmember Kelly.
Sorry.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Wynn. Aye. Councilmember Newsma.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Suffredin. Councilmember Ravel.
Aye.
Mayor Biss.
Aye.
Councilmember Harris.
Aye. All right. The motion passes and is adopted and will be sent to council. That brings us to, I believe, our last order of business on the agenda. No, it is not. All right. So that brings us to R3, which is Ordinance 89024, amending the City Code, Title 2, Chapter 4, Section 2, membership of the Housing and Development Committee. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Harris, seconded by Councilmember Hedikatis. Councilmember Newsma.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to propose one change, which I emailed to the Rules Committee half an hour or so ago. I think it's great to have committee members with the experience that the proposed change outlines. But I want to point out we don't need to change the rules to make that happen. And I don't want to define ourselves into a corner that in some future council might need more flexibility that such prescriptive rules would not allow. So I'm going to propose adding a kind of more general catch-all category of allowing the mayor to appoint someone with other relevant experience or demonstrated commitment to housing equity. Just adding some additional flexibility. So I'm going to make that motion to make that amendment.
Second.
Okay. Motion is made by Councilmember Newsma, seconded by Councilmember, I'll go with Ravel. Councilmember, is there any discussion on this particular motion? Councilmember Suffredin.
Yeah, I guess, and I don't know, you see the applications that we get. I get we've got these 6 enumerated categories and then we have one that's like, and you said, like designed to be flexible. I mean, how does that work? Like what qualifies as demonstrated? Like attended 5 meetings, attended 4, like.
Yeah, I guess I'm leaving that up to the discretion of the mayor with the approval of the council.
Yeah. I mean, would that give you flexibility that you wish, I mean, we don't see all the applications, we just see.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's a distant second behind the option of cutting the number of BCCs in a third and having a third as many appointments. But that's not on the agenda for today. So yeah, I think flexibility is helpful. We have too many commissions, too many slots, not enough applicants, and it's a constant challenge across our BCCs.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Any more discussion on this amendment? If not, then I call the roll on the amendment.
Councilmember Kelly? Aye. Councilmember Harris?
Aye.
Councilmember Nguyen?
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma?
Aye.
Councilmember Reed?
Aye.
Councilmember Burns? Aye. Councilmember Suffernan?
Aye.
Councilmember Ravel?
Aye.
Mayor Biss?
Aye.
Councilmember Harris?
Aye. The motion is adopted, or I'm sorry, the amendment is adopted, same thing. All right, I just want to, take one step back, and I should have done this at the beginning to introduce this. So can someone describe why we're here? Why this is in front of us?
I can speak to that.
Sure.
I mean, if you look at the language that we're deleting in the ordinance there, that was so restrictive. We weren't ever meeting that definition. Someone with a lived experience in public housing. I mean, I don't know that we've ever had a committee member who fit that description. So it was more to make the makeup of the committee a more reasonable one to be able to fulfill.
Thank you. Yeah, I am concerned, since no one has their light on, I'll just speak to this. I'm a bit concerned that we are removing the section about someone who has the lived experience. It's more than just living in public housing. It's, housing choice voucher, project-based voucher, someone who is in a household with incomes less than 80% of AMI, housing that is restricted to.
It doesn't mean that we can't. If we could find someone like that, we could still appoint them to the committee. It's just pretty limiting to say that we must have a member like that.
Well, of the categories that I see, all of them are, it's someone who's a developer, someone who's in housing finance, someone who is a landlord, someone who
Number 2 talks about who resides in a predominantly low to moderate income neighborhood. So it does include just your average resident.
I'm sorry, number 2. The number 2 I'm seeing is housing development, finance, sales, or ownership or management of rental housing.
Well, I'm looking at B.
Oh, okay.
Two members who reside or work in predominantly low or moderate income neighborhoods.
Yeah, and I think we're going to get a lot of the folks who work in those neighborhoods. Rather, I just do think that there is something to making an effort to get someone with the lived experience, especially when there's such a balance toward folks who, again, are developers, landlords, financiers, that world. I think we're missing the mark if we're not actively trying to get someone with the lived experience, which I think is really important. And we've seen that imbalance on the current makeup of HCDC, where a good portion of our members are landlords, especially with the work that has come to the committee that maybe shouldn't be there. Councilmember Kelly has their light on.
Sure. So I guess my question is about outreach and recruitment. I know people have been appointed. Mayor Biss has reached out to people to apply for committees. Has there been significant outreach here, like with the Guaranteed Income Program, to try to find that member? I just want to know, has there been any effort? Like I say, I know people have reached out to ask people to apply for other committees.
I don't think there's an answer to that question, or
Can I
maybe
check that as
the
a no?
non-answer is an answer.
So, I mean, that seems to me that there should be.
Answer the question?
Yeah, I just flipped my light on. But I would say I have actually met with a Ninth Ward resident who applied, and I'm actually actively recruited another person who I think should have an application in who does meet these criteria. So I think we should have
The
valid.
Just to clarify the question, there's some people that have met the criteria of the lived experience criteria?
Yes.
Okay.
There's, yeah. So the one person I met with. So.
But the issue is that it's too difficult? Is that what I'm hearing? That it's too difficult to fulfill that one seat? Is that accurate?
That is what was shared by Councilmember Ravel, yes.
I think recently.
Historically, we have not had anyone on the committee who meets that definition.
So I'm sorry. So Councilmember Hedekadis, you said you have, anyway, it seems to me that there are, recruitment efforts that shouldn't be so difficult to fulfill that. And it would be an important voice, it seems to me, on that committee. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Last point here with this item is, while it's not included in this section of the ordinance, the ordinance is pretty clear about the workload for the Housing and Community Development Committee. And the work that the Housing and Community Development, as a member, myself, Councilmember Burns, Councilmember Hedekadis, Councilmember Ravel is the chair. If you read what should be taken on by HCDC is going far beyond that. And I partially think we're here today with this because of a discussion that we had where I raised the fact that the membership wasn't in accordance with the ordinance, where I mentioned a ruling by the law department regarding the way things will move through committee and ultimately to council, and then also where I mentioned that the work that HCDC is doing is outside of its scope as it is defined in the ordinance. And I think if we are here making this adjustment to membership, I think either we have to make an adjustment to what the scope of the committee is, and either decide, do we need to expand the scope or do we keep the scope the same? And then some of the things that are going to HCDC that are outside of that scope maybe shouldn't be going to HCDC because as Chair Ravel and as we know, that committee is swamped. We've had to push things back many meetings because of the number of agenda items that we have, which causes a delay in us being able to move things on to council. And so I think we just really need to get clear on what are the true things that are within the scope of HCDC and what's not, and we need to stick to that. And so I would actually propose that we table this to our next rules meeting and look at that as well, because I think it's caused a huge backlog for HCDC. And if not, then I think if we don't table this and review that, then I think we just need to stop sending things to HCDC which are not within its scope. And that should be done immediately if we choose not to take this up. Table until so the motion that I'm moving is to table this item until the next Rules Committee meeting. And if there is no second, then expect that.
I'll second, not necessarily for why you mentioned it, but I do think we should allow some time for this to, Councilmember Hadikotis, it sounds like he's on the verge of, unless I didn't hear that, getting somebody who fits this, getting somebody on the committee that meets the current requirement under D.
Just to clarify, I've been recruiting people, but I still think we should move forward with this change. I think the change is fine.
Well,
so.
no, I understand that. I'm not saying what you support. I'm saying, do you think we're going to have someone on the committee? I guess this is more of a question for Mayor Biss, who meets the requirement outlined in D by our next meeting.
I have no idea. I'm really always extremely enthusiastic when council members recruit diverse candidates for BCCs. So I'm excited about, this is not the first conversation Councilmember Hadikotis and I've had about this. I'm excited about it, but I don't think I have enough information to make a promise about what's going to happen before the next rules meeting. Are motions to table debatable?
No.
Yes, I guess I'll remove my second, and then I just want to say something then.
Councilmember Burns, then Kelly, or did you turn your light off? Or Councilmember Burns first, though.
I just would love to see D moved as one of the options under B then. Yeah, that's what I would like. Because one, I don't think this would be difficult to do if we had a recruitment effort. I'm not sure we haven't. I don't think we've really thought out how we could go about recruiting. I think we send some general information out, requesting people to apply. As Councilmember Hadikotis mentioned, I've made some efforts. He's made efforts. Council has made some efforts individually to try to recruit, but I don't think there's some great organized effort to try to recruit someone who meets this particular qualification. And if something like that were to happen, I think we could find someone. But I think if we didn't do that, I would just want to see D included in B. So you have two members. They could be who are not council members who reside or work in predominantly low to moderate income Evanston neighborhoods, but also one could be someone who with lived experience in public housing, housing choice voucher, et cetera.
Councilmember Kelly.
So I just thought in terms of recruitment, I mean, I feel like I didn't know that you were, needing this position, but I'd be happy to talk to folks in my ward. And I think that would be a way to say, hey, to the council members, we're looking to fill this position. Would any of you know someone that meets this profile who would be willing to apply? I think that would be one way that we might quickly get applicants.
Thank you. And then to close on this, again, as I mentioned, there wasn't a second for the tabling. I just want council to know that, there are things like the RTLO, as I'll call it, or the Just Cause ordinance that nowhere in the scope of what the HCDC committee should be doing do those things fit in. Certainly Just Cause does not fit in there at all. And so council passing on the motion to, we're working on cleaning up HCDC right now. And so by council passing on the opportunity that I'm presenting, or the mandate essentially that I'm presenting here, to either clarify what HCDC scope is or leave it, as is. If you pass on this opportunity, what you're saying is you want the scope to be exactly what it is in the law today. And that means that items that are currently before HCDC causing a backlog, or, a part of the backlog, that shouldn't be there, should immediately be moved to a more appropriate committee. And so I think that's what has to be the case if council chooses not to move on this. And so with that in mind, I'll move one more time to table this to our next meeting so we can get the membership and the scope of HCDC correct, or we're saying that we don't want those things to be in HCDC anymore. So I move to table this to our next meeting of the Rules Committee. With no second, I will move on to the main motion. May I have a roll call?
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris. Councilmember Nguyen. Councilmember Nusma.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
No.
Councilmember Burns.
No.
Hold on. Councilmember Sufferman. Councilmember Ravel.
Aye.
Mayor Biss. And Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it, and that will be moving on to council. That brings us to the last two items, which should move very quickly. I may have a motion on item R4, which is the approval of the 2025 or the 2025 City Council and Rules Committee meeting schedule.
moved.
Moved by Councilmember Harris, seconded by Councilmember Hadikadis. Any discussion on this item? With no discussion, I may have a roll call.
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Nguyen. Councilmember Nusma.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferman. Councilmember Ravel.
Aye.
Mayor Biss. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Thank you. The ayes have it. That brings us to the last item on our agenda, which is ordinance 88024, amending City Code Title 1, Chapter 7, Section 2, General Duties of the Clerk. May I have a motion on that?
So move.
Moved by Councilmember Nusma, seconded by
I'll second it.
Councilmember Hadikadis. It seems that the only change here is that the clerk shall make available a model apartment lease agreement as amended from time to time, and copies of all required disclosure documents to the city, documents to Evanston tenants and housing providers pursuant to City Code Section 5310C. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, may I have a roll?
Councilmember Kelly. Councilmember Harris.
Aye.
Councilmember Nguyen. Councilmember Nusma. Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sufferman. Councilmember Ravel.
Aye.
Mayor Biss. Councilmember Harris.
Aye. The motion passes, and seeing no further business before us, this meeting is adjourned and council will begin in